කටයුතු ධම්මගාසී මහසී සිදුවුණි. දැන් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී සූදානම් වන්නේ මේ පිළිබඳව අවශ්‍ය වන ආකාරයට ධර්ම සාකච්ඡාවේ දේශනාවක් පවත්වන්නයි. මේ සංඛාර වැඩම කළා වූ ධම්මගාසී මහසී විහාරස්ථානයේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේලා වෙනුවෙන් පවිත්‍ර පිළිගන්නවා. උන්වහන්සේ මේ කන්දේ විහාරස්ථානයේ දේශනා කළා. අද දවසේ මේ අදිසිය නමුත් මේ දේශනාව සූදානම් කරන මේ දින තුනකින් විදලගෙන හැටියට සම්බන්ධ සිටින්නේ සාකච්ඡාමය වශයෙන් පවත්වනා වූ දේශනාවක් නිසායි මේ විදිහට ඉස්ලාමී මෙතනදී සිදු කරන්න කල්පනා කළේ. ඒ නිසා උන්වහන්සේ අධ්‍යක්ෂින් බහුල කෙනෙක් හැටියට මේ පින්නතුන්ට අවශ්‍ය වන ආකාරයට ජීවිතවලට අවශ්‍ය වන ආකාරයට උන්වහන්සේගේ දේශනාව සාකච්ඡාව පවත්වනු ඇති. ඉතින් මේ සිද්ධ කරන්නා වූ අනන්ත ප්‍රමාණ වූ කුසල ශක්තියින් අපරස් කරන්නා වූ කුසල ශක්තියින් පිළිම උන්වහන්සේට ආයුරාෝග්‍ය සම්පත් දිගාසිරි සම්පත් සැලසේවා. උන්වහන්සේ බලාපොරොත්තු වන්නා වූ ජීවිතයෙන් ලැබිය යුතු උතුම් ඵලයන් ලබා ගැනීමට මේ සියලු ශක්තිය පුනිස්ලේ වේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. මෙතෙන් පටන් උන්වහන්සේගේ දේශනාව
සාදු 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 නමෝ තස් භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස් භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස් භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස පියතෝ ජායති සුඛෝ පියතෝ ජායති භයං පියතෝ විප්පමුත්තස්ස නති සුඛෝ කුතෝ භයං තණ්හාය ජායති සුඛෝ තණ්හාය ජායති භයං තණ්හාය විප්පමුත්තස්ස නති සෝකෝ කුතෝ භයං. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So dear friends, I'm so happy to be here and I see a few friends from yesterday as well. Is it okay for me to speak in English? English in kata kira pasti nanti. Hah? Because of Peter. Yeah?
Yes.
I would like to speak in English.
If someone can understand English I'm happy to go.
Where necessary, I will also consider sharing and reiterating what I'm saying in Sinhalese as well. So friends, so happy to come back here. And I'm a person who likes to more live the teachings of the Buddha than to recite it. I'm a person who likes to live it. Hence, I like to participate in a discussion because it's only in the discussion that you are able to question your own self. I can share my opinion with you, but actually what you have to say is what's most important. Seeing what I say in you is the nature of ehipassiko, is to see this Dhamma within you. Ehipassiko, to see it in you. So, I took two recitals. One being Piyato Jhayati Soko. Piyato Jhayati Bhaya. Piyato Vipamuttasya. Natti Soko Kutobhaya. So he says that Piyato, endearment. The word in English is endearment. Priyade. The things I like. Endearment. Piyato jayati soko. Soko is about this grief and the lamentation or the suffering. Soka, paridheva, dukkha. So now you ask, Bhante, how can something you like bring soka? Something you like should only bring pleasantness. Eh? Yeah. Isn't it? The moment you are doing something you like, are you happy or are you unhappy?
Happy.
Happy. So where is this sukha? So where does this suffering come from then? No? So where does suffering come from? Can you live what you like all the time?
No.
Why?
Changes.
What changes?
Everything.
The nature changes. What else?
Mind.
Your mind changes. What else?
Appearance, your likings,
Your liking changes. What else?
appearance.
And not only that, what you like seems to always finish, reduce, decay,
Yeah.
depreciate, diminish, all these words. Koyelare me kemati de adu vevi yano. What I like always seems to reduce at the time. Yeah? I've been offered a cup of water. Yeah? And the cup of water is a warm cup of water, hot water. Right? Now it's left in front of me. I still haven't consumed it. But what is happening to it? Except the warmth is reduced, and the cup is getting colder and colder and colder. Now, if I like to drink hot water, now what happens to me? I still like hot water, but this water doesn't know that I like hot water. It is just getting colder. No? The cup of water doesn't know that I like it hot. Amazing. So, it's going cold. Now, the next time I touch it to drink it, I say, don't like cold water. I get a sore throat. Now, I got a sore throat. Yeah? So can you see? Just give it a little bit of time for people to settle down. So it doesn't matter how much I like something. It doesn't seem to know that it likes. How many of you like to drink hot water? How many like to drink cold water? Exactly. So hot water is no good. By the way, does everybody around here knows that you like cold water? No. So what if somebody comes and offers you a cup of hot water? Are you a happy person or unhappy person? Unhappy. So, I am a happy person drinking hot water. I am a happy person drinking cold water. Nobody knows that this gentleman likes cold water. So you offer him a hot drink and says, instantly unhappy, unpleasant. The word yak comes in. අපි මෙහෙට යමු නේද? අයිනට ඒක රන් චැට් එක නෙමෙයි. දෙපි මෙහෙට අයිනට. There was it. Sukhi. Now, not only is this cup now going cold, I know it's going cold. So every moment I know that I like warm water, but I know it's getting lesser and lesser warm. Yeah? So for the person who doesn't like warm water, longer he stays like this, he is getting happier and happier and happier. Why? I like cold water, longer it be Bhante, I get a cold glass of water. Now, on this side, I believe this is a soft drink. Yeah, something from the fridge. Yeah? So now, what happens to it? It's outside the fridge. Now what happens? It's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. So the person who likes a cold drink, yeah, it's kept outside for too long. It's now too warm. Piyato jayati soko. So the mere fact that I like something brings me suffering. Now, as the gentleman said, not everybody knows he doesn't like hot things, warm things. So what do you think everybody keeps doing? Either gives him something that is warm, or if he has something cold, he'll take it away. Yeah? Oh, that's cold. Put it in the microwave and bring it. He may have a cup of tea. He may have kept it there, let it go cold. Others will say, oh, tea must be drunk hot. So you quickly go, put it in the microwave, bring it round. So, how many of you all who is in this room has what is called likes? Things you like? Yeah, everybody? Amazing. How many of you have dislikes? Sure. So now, if you have likes, right? What happens if somebody comes and take away some of the things you like? Are you a happy person or unhappy person? Unhappy? Yes. So now, let's just take home. Yeah? Either your spouse or your parents or your children. What would they always be doing? Would they be allowing you to live the things you like, or would they be allowing you to live the things you dislike? Both.
Yeah.
What more of?
More of the things we don't want.
Yeah. When the lights are being lit, you take it for granted. Yeah? When the lights are there, you take it for granted. But the moment a dislike is lit, oh. ඇනෝනේ කියන්නේ කැමැත්තක් ජීවත් කරන තාක්කල් සතුටින් ඉන්නවා. කවුරු හරි කැමැත්ත ගත්ත ගමන් මොකද වෙන්නේ දැන්? අසතුටයි. දැන් කවුරුද චෝදනා කරන්නේ? ඇත්තමයි. ඇයි? Why do you, if you like something and somebody comes and takes away what you like, how come you are able to go blame the person who took what you like? Yeah. Whom should you blame? Yourself for selecting it as like. Why? If by any chance there was a dislike and this person took away your dislikes, what would you say? Thank you. Thank you. So now suddenly there is this word of blame, and we don't seem to be using this word blame in the right manner. Same with the other word. What? The dislike. Yeah? What happens in dislikes? The moment somebody makes you live with a dislike, what happens? Are you a happy person or unhappy person? Unhappy person. But if by any chance somebody makes you live a like, you praise him or her. Right. Now, with these likes and dislikes, all of us, Buddha says, has what is called expectations. Balaparuttu. How many of you have expectations? Fantastic. Has all of your expectations been fulfilled? No? Why?
They are growing, keeping adding. They are growing and keeping adding.
I have expectations and I seem to change these expectations as time goes on. No? We have expectations that our children will grow good, that they will not do no bad, wrong. And we have a huge amount of expectations. With our likes and dislikes, both. And the moment our expectations are not fulfilled by somebody, whom do we blame? The other person who's not fulfilling it. Amazing, no? Amazing that I have three little things in me. The things I like, the things I dislike, and the things I expect. And this is what I am about, right? And I, whenever something is disrupted, has learned to blame another. And I'll tell you, everybody in this room is like that, right? So are you right or are you wrong? Are you good or are you bad? Are you fair or unfair? Are you just or unjust? Amazing, no? And here I am the best daughter or the son. Here am I, who's the best brother or the sister. Here am I, who's the best relation of everybody's. Here am I, who's the best friend of everybody's, right? Here am I, who's the best spouse. Here am I, who's the best parent. And here's each one of them who's playing this role, turning around to me and saying, Bhante, we are bad, we are wrong, we are unfair, we are unjust. But we have expectations that our children would be good and they should be right and they should be fair and they should be just. Yeah? So, what is right and what is not? What is good and what is not? Huh? Yeah, Kian, you're right. Say. What is it?
It's a relative. One person can see the right thing.
It is relative in a sense, but what do you think Buddha said of the right things and the wrong things? He first spoke about precepts, the 5 precepts or the 8, the Ajiva Attakma Sila. Then he spoke about the 10 perfections, Dasa Paramita. Then he spoke about Dasa Akusal, the 10 unwholesomes to avoid. Then he says Dasa Punya Kriya. Like that, he's shown about 30, 40 qualities to live by. Okay? Before we come to this, let's go to the second recital. Tan Haya Jayati Soko. Tanha. What is tanha?
Greed.
Yeah, greed and the craving. So, what makes up tanha?
Desire to have likes. Desires.
My likes and my
Desires.
amazing, no? So my likes and dislikes seems to be what this tanha, my craving, is about. And this craving and my greed seems to be what's causing this biggest problem to me. I haven't accepted it yet. Yeah? So, piyato jayati soko, piyato jayati bhayam. Now, bhaya, fear. Living what you like or this nature of craving causes you fear. Why are you frightened of?
Fear of losing.
Fear of losing what you have. Fear of finishing what you have. Fear of having to give to somebody what you have. Fear that you may have to share what you have. Fear that others will go do something that you don't want. When we come to talk about precepts, let's talk. How many of you are parents here? How many of you are sons and daughters? All? Okay. As a son or a daughter, were you punished? As a son or daughter, were you punished?
Yes.
Why were you punished? Were you punished because you did wrong or you did something that your parents may have not liked at the time when you did it?
We liked it, but the parents
We enjoyed doing what we did, but our parents didn't enjoy what we did. But more so that they were frightened that if whatever we did was done in society, that those parents will be pointed and blamed for bringing up children like us. Yeah, so this is the biggest fear we have, that people I know around me may do some things that will bring me discredit, will bring me dishonor, and frightened of blame. So I am fearful and frightened of others blaming me, but when it comes to me blaming another, I dish it out with not patting an eyelid. So my craving is such that it makes me fearful of receiving blame. But I don't seem to have any problem blaming another. And I'm not ashamed about it even now. No? Everybody does it, so therefore I also can do it. It's accepted by the majority. Democratic. So this is why we are so far away from the nature of the Dhamma. The conventional world accepts that it's okay. So the conventional world accepts that covetousness. How many of you know the word covetous? Abhijja. When you see something, wanting something that you see. Yeah. How big is it? Little or small?
huge.
Huge. Everywhere I go, whatever I see or hear, I just want it. I just want it for me. This word abhijja is not something that is much talked about. But if you talk about mindfulness, this is where Buddha says, Atapi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijja domanassa. Don't collect this nature of wantingness inside you. That's the mindfulness you should have. Fundamentals of mindfulness. Because this is the way to control the needs and the wants and the likes. So then there is what is called conceit. Kuhaka kama kila again. Kuhaka conceit. What is conceit? Huh? Oh, we don't expose all of what I am about to other people. I am a very closed person in a way. Then there is what? The nature of deceitfulness. Vancha sahagata. I am okay openly to be bigger and better than another. So I will do whatever that I have to do to be bigger. And certain things are okay to do, to cheat. Then there is what is called ill will. Ill will can avyapada kya. Ill will. This nature of creating fear or doubt in another. No? I mostly take this transaction of husband and wife, where the wife says, "Oh, can you please change the bulb? Yeah, a light bulb that's gone." So what does husband do? Finds a little stool like this, brings it, gets the bulb, and what do you think the wife says? Be careful. Here's the husband who walks around the house with his 2 feet. No fear about him. But the moment those 2 feet have to come on top of these 4 legs, she has doubt about his ability. Be careful. So what do you think she's done now? Created confidence or created doubt? Created doubt in you. He said, if the doubt is greater than the confidence that he has, what do you think happens to him? He falls down. Now what do you think the wife says?
I told you so.
I told you so. If you only listen to me, that wouldn't happen. Serves you? Can you see these words living inside you already? How easily do you use them? Very often, very freely, very easily. Look, if you were a person who followed the teachings and lived by what the teaching says of what a good human being is, has to create goodwill, the moment somebody comes and leads the chair to change the bulb, you will say, when you finish, you want to come and have a cup of tea? Reward. Yeah? So what do you think the person is going to do now? Quickly get up here, change the bulb, come down, run for this reward for the cup of tea. Why? He would only get it when he finished the job. But we do not know how to create this wholesome, rewarding, appreciative nature. Kusalasa upasampada. We say that we should create wholesomeness in another. Appreciatively, appreciate another. Oh no. We are like a tooth comb. We comb everything to find that little mistake, little shortcoming, little inadequacies. Am I talking about you all or am I talking about somebody I know? Shivering inside her phone. Bhante, how do you know us so well? Huh? Haven't met you before. You don't have to meet me. You have to meet yourself. Whom do you have to meet? Yourself, this self. First time you are looking at yourself. Yeah? Not often do you get to see yourself, right? So this craving of mine makes me suffer. Craving of mine makes me have this fear. Tanhaya vipamuttasya. Now, if you are a person who is able to let go of the reasons to like something, or to dislike something, or to expect something, then he says, Nati sopo, no more suffering. Kuto bhayam, where is the fear? From there onwards, he says, where is the fear? No? So, I very simply ask, yeah? Buddha in the Dhammapada, Arogya Paramalabha Santutti Paramandana Visvasa Paramanadi. Trustworthiness is the highest kinsmanship in a relationship, he says, right? So each one of us have relationships, right? What relationships? Parent and child, siblings, friends and relations, yeah? Spouses, yeah? Like this, when we have relationships, how much of trust do we have of another? Not much. We can't trust our own selected spouse. We can't trust our own children we made. So, just take your spouse, for the people who are married. Yeah? So what do you think the success of a relationship is? Yeah. So trustworthiness with what?
Respect one another.
Yeah. First thing to do is that the husband should like all the things the wife likes. Sorry, did I say something wrong? The husband should avoid all the things the wife dislikes. The husband should remove all expectations of the wife. And the husband should never be surprised by what she does. Sorry? Aren't these what the marriage vows are about? No? Aren't they what the marriage vows are about? I'm asking you, if you want a relationship and a success in relationship, what is so hard? What is so hard? Now I take you back to those of you who know what a courting period is. Now what happened? Now what happened? This is exactly that happened. I showed and pretended to like the things they like. I demonstrated and pretended, and I avoided, even if there's something I like the most. If the other person didn't like, I avoided it like the plague, just to be attracted. I had the least number of expectations. Only expectation I had that person will like me and love me. And I wasn't surprised by some of the things that were done around me, even though I didn't expect them to behave that way. Until such time the commitments were made, until such time the bondings were done in such a manner that there was no getting away. And after that the game starts. So, now can you see, when Buddha talks about ehipassiko, to come and see yourself, what he meant was to come and see you in your character, you in this personality of this person, and then to look of how what this character and personality has done in the past, is doing in the present, and is planning to do in the future. Right? So where do you think this information is? Is it in a book? It's not in a book. Why? Your past is nowhere other than in you. Your present and your nature is in you. Your future is nothing other than what is in you. So therefore there is no necessity for a book. There's only necessity for you to know, to come and see yourself. So what do you see? When you come and see yourself, what do you think you see? What are you? Are you this mass of body, or are you something else? You are nothing other than a memory of the past, memory of the future, the plans that you made, and the contact you make in the present. Recognizing this word. So when he says ehipassiko, to come and see, you need to see yourself in this nature. So what do you think the past is about? What do you have in the past? Experiences. What sort of experiences? Good and the bad, right and the wrong, fair and the unfair. Now, has the past been all good? How many of you can remember all the good of the past? Or do you remember more of the bad? Both? You sure? You want to investigate a little bit more and see what of more and what of less? Okay. How many of you are the eldest in the family? Okay. How many of you are the youngest in the family? How many of you are the only in the family? No only. So the others are like me, the in-betweeners. Yeah? We are never considered. You know what I mean, right? It doesn't matter what we do to get recognition, that is the last thing we get. The eldest is always the eldest. The youngest is the one who stole the lap of the mother, never gave it back since. Yeah? Now, how much of pain has this caused? Sorry? A lot. The nature of jealousy, I believe, begins with this. Siblings. Siblings. The moment you are in a family of 3, the eldest was the firstborn. The moment the secondborn it comes, half of what they inherit and have is shared. The moment the thirdborn comes, both these people have to give half each to the youngest. So the eldest have quarter, the second have a quarter, the youngest have. You now tell, when mom comes and cuts the cake into 3 and gives, say, no, they've already got half of my share. How can you always be giving to the youngest? You begin to fight. What happens to the parents? How is arbitration? Give the brother to play, give the Malli to play, give the Nangi to play first, and you take afterwards. So you always have to give in. Can you remember this? Yeah? Are these things in the memory? Waiting for a rainy day to get my own back on them? This is the pain that we have. So now go to your adolescent ages, yeah, 15, 16, 17, 18, yeah, and you get to go to parties because you're the eldest. You are allowed to go by bus to school, right? So at 16, if you get to go to school in a school bus or whatever, when the youngest is 16, are they allowed? No, somebody has to accompany. Small one, no. So small one gets at least another 2 years of protection more than us. Same way, you are now big enough to have your own, yeah, say a computer. So nowadays a big problem. So the 16, 17-year-olds now school work is such that they get a computer. The moment that happens, the 10-year-old also gets access to the computer. Now you have a problem. When I was 10, I didn't get one of these, no. How come she gets or he gets? These are the fights that you have to now settle at home. The dad goes and buys a brand new car. Okay? So the two gets to get at the back, either window. Right? But one person gets to drive the car or to be in the car when they are 15, but the other gets to go in this new car when they are 10. Without you knowing, this inside has already considered and compared to say, how come I got to go in a new car only when I'm 15, but Nangi or Malli gets to go in this new car when they are 10. So this is what is called Janaka Kamma, birthright. Where you are born in the family, how you are born in there, and who takes the first and the last. Causes no end of problems. Why? You know where families you have in-betweeners? Now to become the good son or the daughter, one of the things we do is we have to perform. So we have to do about 4 or 5 times more than the others. Am I right? To get that recognition. So we fight the other people in a remorseful way, in a revengeful way. look inside you of the things you like and the dislike and the expectations you had, you begin to see how you consider the other and compare with the other. And I can assure you, even today, most of you have problems of this sibling rivalry. Yeah? Yeah. I have certain incidents that are like, now I have a brother, and he doesn't live too far from here. He decides to go and see my parents once in 5 years or something, back home. And not only that, he has a birthday, I think in August. So my mom's birthday is earlier than him. So the moment the month of August comes, he remembers that he has to make the call tomorrow. So once a year he decides to call. Mother waits for this call. And she gets the information, how they are doing, their family, their children, playing cricket, blah, blah, blah. Lot of information gathered. When I'm in Sri Lanka, once a week, bag of coconuts, bag of rice, vegetables, their medicines, all the things they like, I now, once a week, go to see them. Even as a monk. A duty. The moment I go, oh Bhante, so nice to see you. By the way, do you know, and so cold and the son is playing cricket. And I say, Amma, I've just come to see you today. How are you? I'm good, but Bhante, and the story goes. The next week, same. Until the next birthday, her talk is about this. My little son, who is in so and so, is doing so well, blah, 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 blah. I understand this now. So my jealousy is now not aroused with this. But earlier on, I hated it inside me. Why? You know, from nowhere, he comes and makes one phone call and he gets all this glory. I, every day, bring all these things and speak to her twice a week. And she doesn't even remember me. This is the in-betweener syndrome. And when you have more than one in-betweener, each one of us tries to fight to get to that point. Now you are so exhausted and fatigued, frightened that you will not be that good son or the good daughter. Fearful. So in every role, we are trying to do something. So Janaka Kamma is one of the things that comes to hurt us. Yeah? Siblings, brothers and sisters. Now the next thing is elders. Yeah? The eldest. Now when the eldest comes into the adolescency, the youngsters are still just about trying to walk, just about trying to get to the first school. Yeah? First day of school and things like that. And here the eldest is going through adolescency. New feelings inside me, new emotions inside me, new experiences in my life, don't know how to handle it. Yeah? But what are you expected to do? Are you handheld through that? Or you're just supposed to deal with it? Yeah? You're supposed to deal with it. If by any chance you're lucky enough to have an elder who spoke about it, it's good. Otherwise it's taboo. You don't talk about it. Amazing. So the trauma of this is in there. Now, over and above this, the parents feel that we should not allow our children to go that wrong way. So now what do? You constrain them. You constrain them with things that they should not do. Don't do that, don't go there, don't eat that, don't do this, don't take that. Many don't. Now, you are not respected, you are not given the right responsibilities, you are not trusted with it. So now, the children do not know what to do. They are helpless in a way. And I am telling you this because one of my experiences is that in my home, I lived as a youngster with about 13 girls, right? Until about 12 years of, I think I was 12, I used to get to go and sleep in any room. And I was okay. But one day, my mom came and we were in a house where the back of the house had storerooms. She had emptied a storeroom, put a bed in there with a study table, and said, you should go and study in there. So, I felt that it was a promotion. So, I had my own room, closed up to study and this and that. But little did I realize that when I wanted to come inside the house, there were 2 locked doors. And why was I locked out? And now I know why I was locked out. They didn't trust me with my lust. They thought that I would play around with the girls. That's their doubt. I didn't want to. So they didn't know how to read my character. They didn't know how to read my responsibilities. They didn't know how to trust me. And I know many children that I've met are exactly the same. So, each person should know how to recognize some of the likes and the dislikes of another. If you don't do this, now you can't maintain a relationship. Tanhai jayati soko. So now when you go back to the 4 noble truths, Chaturari Satya, and look at the first Satya, Dukkha Satya, he says, Jati pi dukkha, Jara pi dukkha, Vyadhi pi dukkha, Marna pi dukkha. The 4 things, existence of the milestones in my life. Birth. He identifies that the nature of birth is dukkha. So what is the nature of birth? What is dukkha in the birth? You all have all experienced it, right? Yeah? So what is dukkha? What is suffering? By the way, you all are sat comfortably now, right? What happens after 5 minutes?
Become discomfort.
Yeah, and what do?
Change.
And you have the freedom to stretch as long as you can, right? Some to stretch your leg out, some to cramp it up again, some to hold it under your leg, yeah? Guess what happens in the womb? Guess what happens in the womb? How much of space do you have? Not much. Not much. And you are growing and you can't stop the rate of growth in there. There isn't much space. You're inside a water bag. There are these organs around that are functioning. They don't want you at times. Cramped up like this for 9 months. Pleasant or unpleasant? And by the way, it was the same body, right? It wasn't a different body that was in there. Same body that hurts now was there in the mother's tummy. In the womb. And if you don't do anything this time, you're going to come back in the same place, whether you accept it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you believe in it or not. That's all that's going to happen again. So then there is the confinement. There is what is called labor. Who must be feeling the labor the most? The mother or the child?
The child.
The child must be having a greater pain coming out of that environment of water into an environment of air, change in heat, change in the whole way that he feels. Right? And what happens? You get smacked by the nurse, right? To cry and to satisfy all the conventional needs, wrapped up in a piece of paper, in a cloth, in a towel, passed around so everybody gets to kiss you, welcoming you. And you are in this most grueling pain. Because the mother was able to shout loud, she was able to get a bit of a retrieval. Just consider. Now, how many of you are there on your own? And how many of you had to share the space? All of you on your own? Just imagine if you had to share the space with another. Pleasant or unpleasant? Unpleasant. And what if the other is bigger than you? Don't laugh. What happens if the other is bigger than you and decides to come out the first and get stuck? You got to wait your turn. And by the way, there are more chances that this happens if you are in a womb and in an animal's womb. There's more than one in there. Yeah? So, we haven't even seen the first sight of Jati Dukkha, his birth that we've had, and never considered it even. And we're not frightened to come back again. And we talk about birth control and we talk about all these things fearlessly. Oh, if you don't want it, you can abort it. There's all these miscarriages. Plenty of scientific Einstein theories that you bring without the karmic nature. Birth control is just delaying something in a person. But you can't stop another person being born. Yeah? You can delay a fetus being made in a mother, but you can't stop another person being born. Life is life. Life will be born elsewhere. But we think that we know how to control birth. Contraception. We've gone beyond the nature and taken up something beyond. And this is what we like at the moment. To be scientific. Vyadi Dhammo, Jara Dhammomi, sorry, Jati Dukkha, Jara Dukkha. What is Jara? Aging. The nature of aging. How many of you here have accepted the nature of aging? Yeah? Not really. Bhante don't like the nature of aging too much, and there are lucky, no? Thanking who Garnier, who created something called anti-aging. Yeah? We are able to hide our age. Yeah? The moment somebody asks me, Bhante, when were you born? I say 10th of December. I don't divulge the year. But something in us that doesn't allow us to say how old we are, how many years we've lived. How many of you have accepted that this world and its nature of decay is just what it is? How many of you have accepted or has antiques at home? What is an antique? Huh? Yeah, some little, what do you call, a bit of material that has grown old. So what do? Does the value decrease or has the value increased? I have increased its value, and longer it stays, the value is increased as more. I don't accept that aging is bad. Aging is good in this way. How many of you know about the word called to refrigerate? Yeah, refrigerate. What do? Good. We pick an apple. We pick an apple from a tree. Before it rots, we stick it in the fridge. How long do you think you can leave it? Yeah, today the technologies are Vedic, 90 days or longer, that you can keep an apple in a fridge. So we have denied the nature of decay. We have now economically have come to a point where this is good. We can keep it for a long time. Same preservation. We pickle it, put it in some vinegar, keep it longer. Put it in some alcohol or sugar and keep it longer, ginger preserve and things. So preservation, preservative, sentiment, refrigeration, antiques, anti-aging, all these things are things this conventional world has made for me to deny the nature of aging. Yeah? And these are words present in my inside already. Living it already, every day. So, on one side, I talk about, hey, Bhante, I accept aging. But on the other side, I go and practically do something that's contradictory contradictory to the nature of aging. Yeah. So now just look what the convention and the conventional world has done to me. Right? Take Jati, Jara, Vyadhi, illness. So how many of you have accepted that we are susceptible to illnesses? Good, good. So do we live to avoid illnesses or do we live to be healthy?
Healthy.
You sure, sir? We live to be healthy. How many of you eat healthily or eat to be healthy? Subtle in the question, but just see the outcome. Most of you who eat to be healthy, eat to be healthy with the nature of doubt and fear, not knowing what you ate, whether the amount was enough, the nutrition was enough. Yeah? But the people who eat to be healthy will eat anything and be healthy with what they've eaten. And that's what Buddha says. When we go on Pindapata, he says to accept what's been given and consume it, so it keeps your health and makes you maintain your lustful or your celibate life. So now can you see, we are so far from the nature. Why? Technology and improvement in this existence of sciences have made me move away from the Dhamma. From the Dhamma. So, Maran, Jati, Jara, Vyadhi, Maranam Dukkha. Okay. What does Maran, death, mean? How many of you think that you are ready to die? Sure? You sure? If you want to actually find out whether you're ready, take a deep breath and empty the breath from your lungs and just be. Just watch. After a while, the lungs begin to hurt, the throat begins to hurt, these ears and everything begin to hurt, and it says, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath, because you haven't finished it. We are not ready. But we say that we are ready to. Now, in the Bhante Sutta, Buddha talks about the nature that you cannot bargain with death. When death comes, you can't say, just a minute, I want to tell mom and come. I want to tell my wife that I'm going. None of those things. How many of you have accepted that another person also could just die for the same reason? How many of you have experienced sudden deaths? Sudden deaths. How many of you have experienced tragic deaths? Accidental deaths? Peaceful deaths? Yeah? So what are these experiences? Are these what the person who died experienced? Or is this your perception of how they died? This is just the way I saw the person die. But the person just died. The experience the person died is only death. But to me, they died suddenly. I didn't expect them to die this early. They died in their sleep, peaceful. I wish I also can die peacefully like this, in my sleep. But the person who's dying knows that they have to die now. So the experience of death doesn't change on the circumstances. The circumstances become tragic or become something through nothing other than expectation. So we haven't seen ourselves inside with Jati, Jara, Vyadhi, Marana. Though we say it, we haven't seen it. So we know that by any chance, if I don't breathe for a moment, that somebody will come and resuscitate me. Yeah? Make me breathe. And also stick me in a ventilator or something, make me do something and take me out. So my extension is granted. And I have that inner feeling with my health insurances and life insurances and all the things I've assured myself with, that things will be extended for me, that things will be okay for me going forward. Isn't that how you live, man? Just ask yourself, ask how much of reassurance has these conventional procedures given me? No? And they do. And they do. The trust I have in the pharmaceutical companies, the trust I have in the medical profession, the trust I have in the Ayurvedic and the Chinese, acupuncture and things like that, are things that they have done well, they've improved, and they can sustain life. But nature of these four are just this. Don't go beyond it. See this existence for what it is. Jati Dhara Bihadi. Jati Dhara Bihadi Marana. Now, he then talks about three other sufferings. He says, Piye hi vipayogo dukkho, appiye hi sampayogo dukkho, yam pityam na labaditampi dukkha. So what are these three? Piye hi vipayogo dukkho. How do you know this? Huh? Yeah. It is not about Priya Aya. It's about Priya Less. It's about this endearment. It's the things I like. The moment what I like, I have to separate myself from, oh, now this is the nature of Tanha. So once I am born, the nature of Tanha is present, and in every transaction, I am now suffering these three things. Piyehi vipayoga dukkho. The moment somebody takes away what I like, I am now in the nature of suffering. Appiyehi sampayoga dukkho. The moment I don't dislike something, I am now suffering. And the moment somebody makes me live what I dislike, I am suffering. Yam pityam na labaditapi dukkha. Now the greatest thing, I have expectations, and when my expectations are not fulfilled, I am suffering. Now, interestingly, when I have expectations of another, others don't seem to perform. But look at yourself when others have expectation on you. What happens there? What happens with other people's expectations on you? I do, never ending. Most of the time I'm taken for granted. Rarely am I appreciated. No end in sight of what I am doing. So, most illnesses are now perceived out of this. Yeah? So the back aches, the neck aches, shoulders, yeah? Frozen shoulders, tennis elbows, gastritis, migraines, nothing other than trying to get a short break from my expectations, from what I have been delivering against to another and how the others are expecting me to perform. Yeah? Amazing. Amazing seeing yourself in this manner. So, with these three things, this is what I want to highlight in the talk today. Tanhaya jayati soko, tanhaya jayati bhayam, tanhaya vipamuttasya, nanti soko kuto bhayam. So, the tanha, the craving, is what these transactions of like, dislike and expectations are about. Kamatta, akamatta, balapurutu. Me turat ekka godnagena soke. Me turat ekka godnagena bhaya. If there is a conflict in this world with two people, this conflict is born for nothing other than if you have the same likes and dislikes. You're going to support it if you have the same likes and dislikes. Amazing. So even at home, a little fight is nothing other than these two things. I was watching two children today at lunchtime. I was at a house at Dhammagawesi. This little boy, he was I think four and a half, and the Ayya was there. Ayya is 5.5, and both of them brought their hobbies, which was collecting coins. So the ayah is a bit shrewd. Ayah tells Malli, your bag is too full because you have too many of those big coins. You must get rid of some of the big coins. So what does Malliya do? Malliya collects and puts on all the little big coins. Right? And he says, yeah, now it's good. Ayah, you take. To the brother he gives some big coins. Big boy, no? And he looked and he liked the way the ayah was smiling, getting all these coins, putting in his bag. So he put his hand into the bag and gave ayah another round, another. And I saw the generosity in this boy's heart. Unconditional. And then he suddenly found that this was the last bit that he had. So he looked at ayah and said, can I have some? And what the ayah gave? No. He said, this is mine. But Mani says, I just gave you. Ayah couldn't give it back. So the Mani said, you are unfair. Put his hand and took some of his. Ayah shouted, Ayah cried, Ayah hit Mani. Now, the story goes now, when the mother comes, Ayah tells the mother, oh, my little brother took my money. So now the mother is telling the little son, don't take Ayah's things. I said, oh, don't say anything. Do you know what actually happened? Then I said that the generosity of this little son was such that he gave all of what he had to the Ayah and wanted to see whether Ayah was exactly the same. He wasn't. And Ayah's selfishness is such that he didn't want to share what he got. So only then the mother understood the transaction and how unfair she would have been if she arbitrated. So, in most cases, in conflict, I don't think we know the bottom of the story. We don't know how it arose because of the likes and the dislikes of each individual. Now, I remember once, right, and this is a distinct issue that I had with my parents, where we were sat at dinner and we had this trick where you show something on the ceiling and when everybody looks up, you take something from the other person's plate and you laugh about it or whatever. So one day there was a sister of mine sat next to me and she just, we hadn't played the game even, but she complained, saying that this had been taken. So my mom got so annoyed with this, she came without even questioning anybody. Held me by my ear, took me outside the house, stood me by the stone that we wash clothes on, stay there. And mom went and she closed the door with anger. The moment the door closed, something inside me told me that I am now alone out. If she had left the door open, I was okay because I knew that the door was open. The moment she closed the door, I got so frightened that I wet my trousers. The door shut so hard, the dogs in the house heard and came running to the back to see what the commotion was. And the moment I saw the dogs, I was so pleased. Yeah, played around, whatever, and so happily being. 20 minutes later, mom comes, takes me inside, feeds me, end of story. I have forgotten. This was an incident. About a year ago, I was working with a lady who was sick, and I was a monk then, now I had ordained, and she passed away. And for the 3 months almsgiving, I was asked to come, and I went for the previous day to give this discourse, and I wanted to talk about her because of the experience I had with her. When I went and sat down, in a corner was this lady, and the moment I saw her, what flashed past me was the story that mom had punished me and that I had wet my trousers, and all because she reported me, and I just want to get my own back, and my own back was a fistful of something on a cheek. Now as a monk, when I got this feeling, I was just so fearful. I held on to my robes hard and asked her to come close to me. Just sit down, and I asked her, what is your name? So she said, but I didn't know her by that name. I knew her by a nickname. So I asked, are you so-and-so? She said, yeah. I said, by the way, I have a memory that you did this, and you reported me to my mom, and I was punished in this way. I said, what do you mean? Now she knows nothing about this punishment. It is so significant in me, right? Wetting my trousers, the shame, the fear being outside. Now, I thought that I should have had that anger with the person who punished me, right? Unfairly punished because I didn't take it or do anything. But do you know that I had the anger and the revenge against the person who reported me? Amazing. Amazing. And this gave me a further insight to consider that there are so many things in our memory and we do not know how we have gone and registered some of these things. So when conflict arises, you need to stand back and first look inside as to where this issue is coming from. What of your likes or dislikes had been disrupted at the time and how you had saved it. Why the vipaka is set that way to come out. By any chance, if this lady the next day came to serve me, I would have hesitated pushing the dish, saying I don't want it, and for her to dress with it. I would have just spilled it on her because of the nature, the anger was in me. Now my mindfulness would have been such that I would have been holding on to a patra and doing something, but that is something I could have done. So you know, this is what I'm saying. Take time to consider how the inner nature of your memory is saved and how it is to be brought out. For nothing other than your likes and dislikes and the expectations you had. And the funny thing is that you may have certain likes that you had today, and the next day the like has become a dislike. And then because somebody moved what you liked, you would have an issue, and that is registered with the vipaka waiting to come out. And you do not know how it comes out even. So there's a story that I talk about, the kamma, and how the kammas are formed, how the kammas stand, and how the vipakas are brought out. Very practical in understanding of how we do so. Because of time constraints, I just want to talk one more thing about the nature of dukkha. So we spoke about jati, jara, vyadi, marana. Spoke about piyehi vipayoga dukkha, apiyehi sampayoga dukkha, yam picham nalapitam dukkha. Now he says, the next way of suffering comes is pancha upadana skandha dukkha, the five aggregates. The five aggregates brings you the suffering, makes you reason out the suffering, justifies the suffering. So this nature of pancha upadanas is rupa, vedana, sanya, sanskara, vijnana. We'll just take an example to understand, identify this. Rupa. What do you think this rupa is?
Whatever you say.
Yeah. This rupa is about this physical body. The formed nature of solids, liquids, gases and heats. Apo, tejo, vayu, patavi. This form nature has formed in this way, and we are identified in this form as human. But the humanness is not in the physicalness. The humanness is in the next four. Vedana, sanya, sanskara, vijnana. So in this body, we are always looking for comforts. In this body, we are always looking for comfort. So we will go and justify anything as long as it brings me a little bit of comfort. Right? So the comforts are brought through the Vedana. Vedana is about the sensation of what is formed by what you like, dislike and expect. Yeah? Kamatta, akamatta, balakurtu. So all the time your comforts are justified by the things you like and dislike and the nature of expectation. So this Vedana then has to justify what you like in the sanya. So the sanya is about the way you create the perception to like something or dislike something. So this is where the nature of justification, the nature of because is formed. This body likes comfort, I like this comfort because. The moment you identify a because, that outcome of the because has something that is born, lives and dies. Sanskara. Nature of sanskara. Body likes the comfort, likes it for the, it exists because of the likes, dislikes and the expectation. It's justified with the because, it always lives with the birth, existence. This nature of Vedana, Sanya, Sanskara is now brought together and kept in your memory, Vijnana. So the Vijnana is the nature of how you carry what you like and dislike and the justification to like it and dislike. And the nature of how you live the outcome of this. Let's take one little example just to... How many of you bathe? All of you? Why do you bathe? Does it bring comfort or discomfort?
Comfort.
Sure? Yeah. Bathing brings me comfort. Yeah? Okay. So, bathing brings me comfort with the Vedana, likes and dislikes and expectation. So, when do we like to bathe? Huh? When you're tired?
No, in the morning as a matter of habit.
So as a matter of habit, I bathe in the morning, some bathe after work, some bathe before 12, some don't bathe on a...
Before you go to bed.
Before you go to bed. Some don't bathe on a Tuesday and a Friday. Yeah, there are lots of likes and dislikes about the bathing, of how you form it. Yeah? So can you see, bathing is comfortable in the Rupa. Yeah, when this body is bathed, it's comfortable. It's comfort because of the likes and the dislikes. Now, you justify the bathing. So what do you need to bathe to be comfortable? Water. What water?
Clean water.
Clean, warm water. Exactly. Where does it come from?
On the tap.
Yeah, it comes from the tap. It comes from the tap. So where is the other end of the tap?
Somewhere in a reservoir. You don't know where.
You don't know where it is, and who cares where it is? My perception is that when I open the tap, I know the water that comes out is warm, is clean, and it cleans me. No, yeah. At times, the water that comes out may be more dirty than your body being dirty, and you may dirty your body even more. But because it is comfortable, I bathe it. So what else do you need to bathe? Water? Soap. What soap? So now everybody has a perception about the soap you want. Yeah? Oh, you want something that smells good. Yeah. Sunlight on the night.
Bar soap එක අලෙදි හොදනේවා.
මොනවා හොදනේවා?
රෙදි හොදන්නේ පොඩි කාලේ බාර්.
So
ඒව හරියන්නේ නැහැ දැන්.
සුවඳ සමන් එකකින් ඇඟ හොදාගෙන බාර් සෝප් එකකින් රෙද්ද හොදාගෙන රෙද්දෙන් ඇඟ පොඩි. We are talking about these soaps that are for cosmetic soaps and the detergent soaps. So he's saying that you need something that smells good as a cosmetic soap. I asked him whether the detergent soap is good. He says no. I said why? That you don't use on the body. You use only on the clothes. You wash the clothes, and with whatever cosmetic soap you wash this body with, you take these clothes that you wash with the detergent and cover this body up in this way. All perceptions. All perceptions. Apit hari hondai kiyana hadata katandara. We've only taken bathing to explain this. Now can you see how this ignorance, avidya pachya sankara, ignorantly taken perception, and how I've made up this big story of bathing. Huge story of bathing. So I bathe and I get what is called cleanliness. Sanya, sanskara. Out of the perception, I get the outcome of cleanliness. So what's the nature of cleanliness? It is born, it lives, and it dies. So what happens now? I'm clean. With time, does cleanliness increase or decrease? Cleanliness decreases, and what happens? Ceases to be. Now what happens? You now make up a new reason and bathe again. Second time. Now you come, you are clean again. Now what happens with cleanliness that you got?
Again the same process.
Decreases, 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 ceases to be.
And bathe again.
So when do you stop bathing?
Till you go to bed.
Till you die in this body, you bathe. This is what anichavata sankhara upadavaya dhammino upajjitva nirujjanti te sambuddha is about. Anichavata, impermanent are all the outcomes of reasoning. So cleanliness is the outcome of a reasoning. Upadavaya dhammino. What was born was cleanliness, and its nature is to decay, to reduce and finish. Upajjitva niru. Anything that is born has to cease one day. This is something that you should understand, he says. So okay, we eat. Why do we eat? What happens when you eat? You fill your stomach. So what happens to the filled stomach with time? Does it increase or decrease? Decreases, 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 and ceases to be. Now what do you do? Eat again. Eat again. So the cycle goes. So you remember that eating makes your stomach full. So because of that, you make a new reason. Whatever that is prepared, you go and eat again. Same way, you are born. You are born to this body with what is called life expectancy. Ayusa. This life expectancy with every moment reduces, 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 and ceases to be when death occurs. Now what happens?
Reborn.
For the comforts you're looking for, you now make those perceptions reborn again and find a body, and then you're reliving the expectations on life expectations again. So this cycle of rebirth is not in the body but in the perceptions. Avidya paccha sankhara. Sankhara paccha vijnana. All these perceptions and the outcome of the perceptions are in my memory. Vijnana paccha nama rupa. It is inside my memory in a form of how size, shape, smell, taste, everything associated with the faculties. Nama rupa paccha salayatana. Ayatana. It is always, the memory is always things I saw, things I heard, things I smelled, things I tasted, and things I felt with transaction. Salayatana paccha passo. This faculties now always make contact with this world. Passa paccha vedana. The moment this faculties go and make contact with the world, I either like it or dislike it with the expectation. Vedana paccha tanha. The moment I like it or dislike, I give it a justification with the tanha as a because. Because I like it or because I dislike it. The nature of tanha, tanha paccha upadana. Now I cling as wanting it or discard it as I don't want it. Upadhana paccha bhava. Bhava is about the nature of wanting it again and again and again and again. Repetition of the perception. Bhava paccha jati. Every time you want it again, you must make it born again. Jati paccha jaraman. Everything that is born decays and ceases to be. And hence you experience what is called soka, parideva, dukkha, domanasa, upayasa. So, with the soka, what happens is that we have experienced that when you bathe, from the moment you bathe, the cleanliness reduces. But the comfort that I want is such that as long as my body smells the soap, or as long as I have that freshness in my body, it is pleasant. So therefore there's no soka with it anymore. It is sukha and not dukkha. So again, it's about the threshold I give to the dukkha and convert it to saying that's sukha. All a false way to look at this existence. But Bhante, why should you always look at dukkha when you can look at it as a sukha and live it happily? Come on, Bhante. No? Yeah. So this existence is such a beautiful existence when you begin to start looking at it through the window of the Dhamma. But the moment you look at it as a Buddhist, with the nature of the scripture of Buddhism, you lose it. Why? the nature of Buddhism is not all of the phenomena of the Dhamma. It is also the ritualistics and whatever the scripture conventionally has been accepted. Yeah? So we don't see the Four Noble Truths for what it is in this world. This world exists only because of the Four Noble Truths. But we have never been taught to see the world, to look at the world with the Four Noble Truths. We've been asked to look at it in a logical, analytical, methodical way. We've been asked to look at it from an experimentation, observation, with the outcome, conclusion, pariksana, niriksana, nigamana. Unless it is experimented, don't talk to me about it. But this experimentation changes day in, day out, so the outcome changes. But I'm happy to live with the changing world. Accept what science does. But I'm unable to break up any transaction into the four things of the Four Noble Truths. Take the notion of consuming food. Yeah? How many of you become hungry? So is hunger a pleasant or unpleasant experience? Unpleasant. Dukkha. Hunger is a suffering. So what's the cause of the suffering? The need for food in this body, or the habitual trait that I have trained myself. Dukkha, dukkha hetu, suffering, cause of suffering. Now what have I accepted to get rid of suffering? Is dukkha. Eat something. You have accepted that if you eat something, it goes away. So what do you do in the marga? You go to the kitchen, take a plate, serve yourself with something that's been produced, cooked, and what do? Shove about 10 to 15 mouthfuls, and suddenly the hunger is, and all what you've done is live the Four Noble Truths. Take yourself going to a doctor. What's the suffering? Symptoms. Rogalasana. Symptoms. Dukkha. So now, without taking anything else, you go to the doctor, and what does the doctor do? Yeah, through observation, they do what's called diagnosis. Finds the cause of the suffering. Yeah? So once they find the cause, what do? Prescribe. Before they prescribe, they look at the possibilities of healing it. It's called the prognosis. Nero, the prognosis. How to cure this. And when they find the cure, they say this is curable. It can only be cured if you take this prescription, the magga. So it gives you, take 2 tablets 3 times before after meals for 10 days and you will be free of this. So we happily come. All what we done is activated the Four Noble Truths. So like this, we haven't learned to look at this world and the transactions through the Dhamma. No. We've learned to be very devotional and do all the Shraddha activity. But when it comes to living with the Dhamma, we are very different. We don't want to know. So like this, the Eightfold Path, the Paticcasamuppada, the 5 aggregates, all these things you could see in your day-to-day transactions if you begin to start looking at yourself as a hipasya.
Removed from the Dhamma, removed from reality. We have learned to look at the Dhamma, removed from reality.
We have removed ourselves from seeing the... it's easier to say that we have included ourselves to look at the conventional world with the way the democratic people look at it, and we are happy to be so.
What I mean is, Bhante, all this time, it dawned upon me from your discussion at this moment that how we see, we look at the hunger, we look at our illness through dukkha, the cause of the dukkha, cessation of dukkha, and the path or the way to. So you explained that beautifully, and it was very convincing. But so far we have not learned it that way, and we say, birth is suffering, jati dukkha, jara dukkha, vyadi dukkha, maranam dukkha. We learn it by heart, but we don't apply it to our real life. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Exactly, and
that's what you have been explaining
to us.
to us.
Thank you. So go back to where this went wrong or where it changed. And where it went or whatever is nothing other than what is called the educational system, the curriculum. We were asked to learn something. So, how many of you know the Four Noble Truths? Dukkha, yeah? Right. So, whenever you say these 4 things, you get 4 marks. And you now know it. But you are not expected to live it. Now when you look at the 13 years of education you had, it was only to be certified with it, but not to live with itself. This, therefore, we were also asked to learn a scripture called Buddhism. We learned it, we got marks. I'm sure there are people who got a distinction or a credit for Buddhism, but you do not know whether you live all of what you learned. The moment you step back of this nature of convention and start looking at yourself, you will begin to start saying that every single word the Buddha said is lived by you, not knowingly.
So where do you stop having perceptions? How do you do that? How do you begin it?
You don't stop having perceptions. Now what you have to do is you must remove the avidya paccaya sankara. Ignorantly I make perceptions, and the ignorantly taken perception is what causes me to do this. So he says, avidya yat veva asesa viraga nirodha. One must now bring wise attention, and it's only the wise attention that makes you become a wholesome person, and the wholesome kusala now gets you from this nature of covetousness, conceit, deceitfulness, ill will, the precepts, and all the things. So when you now remove that, you become a kind, compassionate, generous, forgiving in nature as a person. That alone is enough for you now to begin to see yourself. So in the discussion, if we now spoke about likes, dislikes and expectations, and we explained about blamefulness. If you stop blaming another person for anything from today, what do you think you've done? If you begin to stop blaming another person from today, you have begun to get on the path of selflessness.
Live the Dhamma.
Yeah, live the Dhamma, but also live. You avoid your selfishness, lobha, and you begin to see that everything is nothing other than caused by me. If this world is nothing other than cause and effect, my experiences are that I am the cause of everything. Now you begin to see the I and the me and the mind in the way I am living, where I am the one who makes the like, but I blame another. I am the one who makes a dislike, I blame the world. I am the one who is making the expectation, I blame the world. The moment you begin to see this and stop blaming the world and seeing yourself to adjust according to the needs of the world, you become what is called selfless. A person who gets there begins to see what is called Sakkaya Ditthi.
If we explain Sakkaya Ditthi for a second, how do you explain Sakkaya Ditthi?
Sakkaya Ditthi is about this nature of how you have formed everything as me, my, I in the nature. So when you begin to see that I am blaming the world, not because the world is to be blamed, because I made myself to like it, I made myself to dislike it, I made myself to have an expectation. So when you begin to see that, you now stop and neutralize your like and your dislike. The moment you do that, the tanha is reduced, and the moment you do that, your ego is reduced, humbleness is brought. With that, now you have seen the nature of self making this nature. First experience it, then you will know how to explain Sakkaya Ditthi to your own self.
Bhante, I have been experiencing that difficulty for a couple of days now.
I understand.
I see your point.
Yes.
It's sort of it gives me so much of unpleasantness, dissatisfaction when you feel that that you try to blame somebody else. Actually, it is the case that because of somebody else, you come into a state of dissatisfaction.
Yes.
But that's wrong.
It's wrong.
And you suffer. You dukkha for you.
Right. So, the moment you begin to see this, you come to agree what is called kamma sakomi. You are the rightful owner of all experiences. Kamma dayado. You are the one who is inherent with all of what the others have done. Kamma yoni, now that is inherent, you are the one who can now go and make all the things you remember born. Kamma bandhu, you are the one who can go and bind more than one memory in you. Kamma patisarano, now with what you bound, depending on the benefit for you, you bundle it and bring and use it at that time. So you begin to pull a lot of things together when you begin to just get to this first point of tanha and seeing this nature of self in that way. Don't try to explain yourself, because what will happen is that you'll go back to the school scenario. You will begin to know it, and the moment you know it, you can't do anything about it. This is what happens to a lot of people today. Even trying to meditate, they go and read the Anapana Sutta. There are 16 conditions, it says. Oh, you remember the 16. Next thing is you sit to look at the breath. You now try to drag your memory to see whether what the next condition is. The next condition is. So you make the condition in a perception and you think that you've seen the condition. But the nature of an inhalation and exhalation brings you the form of the sensation. And that's all you need to be in the mindfulness. So like that, we have, the education curriculum is moving us from ehipasiko.
If I go back to the previous discussion, that if I say that does everything work on desire, or other way around, it means that if we work everything, I assume that I see everything that I like or dislike is everything based on desire.
Yeah. Before I give an answer, just question yourself in this manner. Who taught you to see and to look? Who taught you to see and look? Balandai, Dakindai, Balandai, igenu kauda? Nobody. When I was born, I had the capability to see, and my likes and dislikes, my desire made me to look at certain things and not look at certain things. Like that. Same with hearing and listening. My insight made me hear, my desire made me listen. Same with smell and breathing. Same with taste and swallowing. Same with the feeling of the warmth and the cold. Feeling the dukkha and the experiencing of the sukha, sapa. Right? So now when you look at nature of anger, jealousy, all these conditions, nobody taught me. I came self-taught in a package. When I was born, I was able to do all these things. Now, I was dependent on a parent to protect me and then provide for me until I became sufficient. Not self-reliant, sufficient. Now, what happens is that in there, the nature of culture or tradition holds you in ransom in obedience. So suddenly, you become too obedient to the parent, right, to the guardian bringing you up. And now what happens from there is that you are constrained by your nature of your ability or the capability you have. So the obedience is frightened that you may have been brought up in a way, so therefore they say, don't look there, look at this. Don't listen to that, listen to this. Don't eat that, eat this. Don't go there, come here. Like that, we are constrained in our nature and our habituality. Yeah? So everything happens with desire in you. Comes pre-packaged with habituality, achinna kamma, with the janaka. In this nature, first thing that happens is that suffocation happens with the obedience. Do not know at what time this is taken out for you to grow to be your nature. And why I say this in this way is that it took me 40 years to get up to my mother and father and say that I was not cut out to be the conventional person they wanted me to be. And it took me 8 further years to undo the conventional to get to my robes.
But your real nature can be bad as well.
Your nature is nature. It's your past lives, it's the way the past karmas bring, and whatever. And here, you now, not only do you carry the vipaka of that, but you carry the vipaka of the constrainment of that you're given. Certain people, it is good. For certain people, it is bad.
It means that Janaka Karma plus experience that we gather during our lifetime make us how we behave.
Very much so. Yeah? So it's about the janaka of where you are born and how you are born, to which position you are born, with what wealth you are born. Then the nature of achinna, habituality comes into that, and then comes the rest of the vipakas. So whatever from the previous lives, the upapajjavedaniyas come, whatever that is there from the aparapariyas come in here. And then in this nature with the 5 faculties, you collect what is called the Ditta Dhamma Vedani, the immediate comers. When the life finishes, the Ditta Dhamma Vedani all finishes off. But anything that has Upapajja Vedaniya now goes to the next one. Aparapari goes to the next one. Beautifully seen. And the mind never dies. Achirang vatayang kayo. Pataving adisesati. Chuddho apecha vinyano nirattangva kalingara. This body is just like a log, always perishing into the ground. But this mind, it never does it break, and goes from life to life to life to life. So it just goes and it collects a little body as and when the nature appears. So hence the memory is carried in there, the karma is carried in there. So if you take a lady's throatlet or whatever and just look at it, the memory or the vijnana is about this nature of the throatlet. The little beads at hand are just your lives. So each time you just connect and you experience the karma that is there. That's all that is there in that way. And you begin, yeah?
So that if we speak about this rebirth, that what do we take from one bhav to the next bhav? Is it only the vijnana which is included everything?
Exactly. So in the vijnana is the memory from the past lives, upapajja vedani and aparapariyas. It's a habituality associated with that. It's then the asanna kammas that are chosen for you to have this thing. Then it has pratisandhi vijnana. That's about the volitional cognition that you now need to get connected into the next life, right? Pratisandhi vijnana. So, and it's a nature of how the thinking happens with the faculties. So depending on the life you choose, you have either the 5 faculties or lesser number of faculties. So then there is a nature of rupavachara and arupavachara. So a little bit more complicated. I've got a slide of this drawn up just to explain in a workshop in a way, because each subject we talk about, like if you take the 5 aggregates, it's a 2-day discussion. If you take the 4 noble truths, it's a 7-day discussion. If you take the Aryashtanika Magga of how things happen, it's at least a 10-day discussion. Right? If you want to see it in you, why? You need to sit down and start seeing yourself and writing them down. Right? So, as an exercise for you all, right? Tomorrow morning, get an exercise book. Split the first page into 2, likes and dislikes, and start writing them down. The things you like and the things you dislike. Yeah? First, there will be just a few. But then you take what I like to see and don't like to see. Like to hear, don't like to hear. Like to smell, don't like to smell. Like to taste, don't like to taste. Like to experience. Giving, taking, sharing, yeah? Getting. Like that if you take. Then you take relationships, what I like of another. And the book will be not enough. Why? You are investigating your tanha. Now yesterday at the Moulin temple, I took the discussion of Buddham, Dhammam, Sangham, Saranam Gacchami. And I asked the question, I say, what does this Saranam Gacchami mean? When you take, I take refuge in something, what are you actually doing? And we took the Itipiso recital and broke it up into what Buddha Sarana mean, Dhamma Sarana mean, and Sangha Sarana mean. And I wish I get another opportunity somewhere soon to recite that discussion again. Why? It gave me such a realization of what Itipiso Gatha meant. Yeah? Yeah. And you know, it was recorded yesterday. I took a recording back home and I listened to it last night till about 2 o'clock.
Beautiful.
Yes, I wanted to hear it again.
Me too.
Because there were so many things that I hadn't considered. At that time in the meditation, it came out.
Wow.
But when I questioned myself again, it was so profound to hear it again.
Yeah.
Hence, I'm a bit of an unorthodox monk in my delivery of my Dhamma. For the mere reason I talk about the practicality and I don't talk about the theory. I don't talk about the worship, I talk about the living of the nature of the truth. Yes.
Sorry, small
But,
question.
sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry. In this conventional world, although we know the truth, we try to see the truth, what we see is the perception. Now, the glory of a person, as you explained, is to see the truth through this perception. Now, say I am starting seeing the truth and stop blaming everyone, and stop hating everyone, stop disliking everyone or everything. But the rest of the conventional world is continuously blaming on me. Now, to see the truth, I have to have great patience on me. The thing is, it depends on the person. How do you think we should improve to withstand this?
Okay. So this goes back to the discussion that I had yesterday. If I just simply take the first quality of Buddha, of Arahant, Sielu Keles Durukargata, a person who's removed all defilements, Rahasing Wat Pau Nokarane, a person who doesn't say no wrong in even in their secrecy, is a quality of a Buddha. If you take us, we are discontent with some of the things that are going on, and we are insincere with ourselves. We are not sincere with ourselves. So we are what is called two-faced. We have one feeling inside, we say something else. So therefore, we are the most pretentious in nature. Pretentious. We try to pretend. Right? So in this pretense, we declare to the world of this pretentious nature. And the world begins to respond in what is nothing other than respect to you. Anuttaro Purisadam Sarati. Others respect you to what you declare of yourself. Therefore, with that nature, people expect you to deliver your pretentious nature. And this is what is harming you at the moment. For me, for 10 years before I became a monk, I lived this truth. I lived a non-conventional living by the 8 precepts. When I became a monk, I had to do 2 things. One was to leave the purse aside, second was to keep the keys aside. For 30 months or more, I haven't touched my purse, I haven't touched my keys. I don't lock a room, I don't do a transaction. That's all I had to do. Otherwise, I used to follow. Today would be the 4,207th day. I'm practicing Vikala Bhojana, not having a solid something after midday, not even a tablet. I'm practicing my celibate life. 4,207th day. I count every day for me. Why? It is so important. Right? So I know that I can live this even in the conventional world. It's the way that you adjust yourself to accept another. If you begin to respect another and be truthful with yourself, you won't go wrong. You can't go wrong. The conventional world can't make money being truthful. They have to be deceitful. So you have to choose your right livelihood. This is the nature. I talk about lawyers, fabrication of evidence, talk about accountants, fabrication of numbers. Every vocation has its unconventional ways that you break the precepts. Right? So, first of all, don't try to argue in a way in this manner. First, simply just look at the way you like something, dislike something, and expect something. Now take the people who matter for you. Okay? Take your children. Are you a person who can like what they like and avoid what they dislike? Are you a person who can reduce the expectations on them and not be surprised by what they do? Try that. When you adjust to that level, your humbleness is such that you can now reason yourself out beyond the other issues. What you're now trying to say to me is that how if this society is lying all the time, and how would they see me? They will walk all over me if I do this in this way. it would happen when you become humble. Today, you see that you will be walked all over, right? That they will get all over you because of this nature of this existence, where your ego doesn't want to be trampled. So, first try to be humble in yourself first. With the likes and dislikes and the expectation. Once you become that, then how you approach the other things will just get adjusted to the truth, the practicality. It's hard to explain to you, and with the current ego that you have, Asmimana, Sayyamana, Sadisimana, Heenamana, with these 4 egos, it's hard to explain something to you, for you to put anything in there. Why? The egos that you have doesn't allow you to accept it that way now. So you must first humble yourself a little bit, and only then you can accept what I'm saying. So otherwise, I can't give you an answer that you can live with tomorrow. So first, just take these likes, dislikes, and just play with it. Play with it. The best exercise you can do.
Probably, you may have already answered that question that I am going to ask, but I didn't realize it properly. That's why I am repeating it. Assume that when we are talking about the kids, that sometimes we punish or we blame them, that thinking that we are right, but probably they may right on that aspect. But how do we know exactly whether we right or they right?
Exactly. And this is the first nature. When you begin to like something, right? If you like something, right? Now, you like it, so therefore when they do something, you don't now even go to question them. Why? You like it. Now you do not know whether what you're liking is good or bad. So now you're lost. Now you're lost. Now, if you dislike it and they like it, you go question them because you dislike it. So at the moment, what you need to investigate is, what are the things I don't like? And are these the things that follow the 5 precepts? Are these the things, right? So breaking of the 5 precepts must be a dislike in you. Now, you say, hey, children, you should not consume alcohol, you should not sexually misbehave. These are the biggest things in a Western society you should be frightened of. But if you only look at yourself and your likes, these are the first 2 things that are in the list. When I come tired after a day, having a drink. And maybe that when I'm walking around the streets or whatever, when I see a pretty face, I admire it. But when somebody else admires and does something, I don't like it. So I'm contradictory in that way. But I can't be contradictory if I have the ownership and the responsibility, the commitments and the obligations to correct another. This is what I question. First, step back and first look inside yourself. Just write down the list of things. Write down what are the things I like my children to do and don't like my children doing. Just write down a sheet of paper and you will begin to admit and you will begin to see how fair you are with what you like them to do and dislike them to do. I think every parent should do this exercise. Every parent should do this exercise. Sit with the children and ask them what they like and dislike. And then say, I don't like you doing that, but I like you doing this. And they didn't know that about it. And these are the expectations I have of you. But we find it so difficult to admit that that is so.
Bhante, I have at the time of death, what that transmits the next birth, you call it vinyana, is that right?
It's called chuchit chitta, last thought. Last thought. The last thought selects the realm you are to be born.
Right.
Then the pratisandhi vinyana carries the nature of cognition into it. And inside that is what is called janaka karma. So the janaka karma then takes an embryo and makes what's called a fetus from there onwards. So if you ask the medical sciences, they'll explain that when a lady is pregnant, they have what is called an embryo that perpetuates, makes more cells in a way. And every pregnancy for the first 10 weeks is very similar. And then at the 10th and 11th week, this embryo has its own heart and the heartbeat begins to happen. So the moment the heart begins to happen in the embryo, a mind is attracted to that. So our mind is connected in us in the hadaya, in the heart. Right? So a brain is just a dumb organ that does all the execution of signals in here, but the heart is the one that stops and starts and then gets the vijnana in there.
Then Bhante, there is quite a controversy about when being leaves this birth for that being to be reborn in another's conception. How long will it take? There are some teachings to say it immediately it happens. Then there are certain teachings to say it's sort of like what you call Gandhabba, it moves about in the air and things like that. It's very, we are a bit confused about having the right understanding about it.
So before you go back into the nature of a physical body and the birth in there, just look at how long you stay in your own perception now. When the nature of hunger happens, how long do you wait hungrily before you fill it up? The moment you feel hungry, you fill it up. At times, even before you feel hungry, you fill it up. But there are instances where you may skip the meal. And all these are options you have even with connecting into a body. This is what Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Samdittiko means. Here and now. To be seen here and now. Explanation of the teachings of the Buddha is available with every life breath that you have. So it must be true now. So if you take one perception of yours and see the options it has to start again, that's exactly the options and the cycle it takes for you for your rebirth in a body as well. No difference. There is, we are the ones who have spoken about birth and a death in a body and a birth and a death in a experience. No difference.
One can't sort of impose a limit with so many weeks or so many days or so many weeks or so many months. The vijnana sort of moves about in the...
Definitely.
You can't say that. You can't say that.
It depends on the garuka, intensity of the death, for you to decide how this happens. Most cases, you don't let this go unless you've held on to something else. This is how greedy we are. If you look at the comforts that we want to live, we won't let this go unless I've held on to something here.
That example of hunger is very important there.
Yes, sir. So nice, because you can explain everything Buddha said with that. So that is my habituality. So with that, if you look at how I bathe, I have a frequency. And that frequency I don't break in that way. Life form is exactly the same for me. I don't break them. So it must be explained to you in a way that is present in me now. I don't have to learn it now. Right? So the rebirth process is present in me now. Why? The next moment I die, it must connect again, no?
Sometimes the explanation we get is, well, this vijnana, this moves around, called, whatever it is, till somebody's womb is ready to accept it. So these are different interpretations we get, but sometimes we become a bit confused about it.
Exactly, sir. Okay, let me just give you a very quick answer. Now, there are 6 realms that you can be born to. Brahma, Deva, Manusa, Sattva, Yaksa, Raksa. Out of this, Manusa, Sattva are what is called physical bodied, Rupavacharai. The Brahma, Deva, Yaksa, Raksa are astral bodied, or Rupavacharai. Right. So you have the choice with your last thought to be born in any one of these 6 things. Now, if your last thought is wholesome, you go to Brahma, Deva or Manusa. If your last thought is unwholesome, you go Sattva, Yaksa, Raksa. Now, in the human life, There's about 6.5 billion people in this world. Out of that, half or so are females. Out of that, you remove the children who are not attained age. You remove the children, the people who have menopause. You have the people who are fertile. Out of that, you have a group of children who are still in school. There is a group of females who have finished producing, and there's only so much. And even they, when they are pregnant, there's only such a little chance of finding a human fetus to be born to. But if you take a comparison of what life is about and take animals, he says that the number of species of animals is greater than the number of human beings in this world. Then he says that the life forms are above the land, in the air, on the land, underground, and in water. So then he says, take one species. If you take ants, just ants, and take just this temple, very temple and its compound, and count the number of ants, there are more ants in this compound than human beings. So the form of life for you to be born, if you want Rupavachara, the chance of going to the animal life is much easier and greater, and you will find a living fetus there to be born, or as a larvae, or as an egg, whichever the way that you are going to be born again. Yeah? So human and existence of human is the rarest form of life that you can be born to. Rarest. And guess what we have done now that we got the opportunity? Have we made the best use of it or not yet? Trying our best, except that the traditions and other cultures and other people's beliefs seems to be making me look some other way. Conventional fears and this democratic nature, yeah, majority has to be followed. So I get pushed there.
One day there is a stipulation in the Dhamma where a human being cannot be born in an animal world.
There's no stipulation. The last thought does that. And I haven't read all the suttas to explain this yet, but I know that there's one sutta that explains that Buddha says that if you die with what is called ego, mana, you end up as a dog. If you die with adhimana, excessive ego, you end up as a monkey.
Monkey?
So, yeah. So like that, he has explained a few possibilities of birth. I have only been told this story, I haven't read it, so therefore I know how to explain. But there are these things that he has said. Now he has certain things that he says. He says that if a person has got what is called vivarana, if a Buddha has given somebody a path that you will one day either be a Buddha, Samma Sambuddha, or a Pacheka Buddha, or you will enlighten in this way, a person who has got that vivarana from there doesn't get born into an animal smaller than a house sparrow, gekurulu, like that. So like that there are certain statements that have been said. Limitations in that way. Okay.
Is there a difference between Vijnana and Chitta?
A Chitta is part of the comparison of the component of Vijnana. Chitta is about the Chitta. So Chitta, Chaitasika, Rupa are the formations in this Vijnana. Okay? So there are components of what is called the bucket of Vijnana. And these things are present only with this Pratisandhi Vijnana. When the Pratisandhi is, the consciousness happens. Cognition, volitional cognition happens, then some of these things come up. The Chitta comes up for that ayusa that is there in that life. Yeah?
So what we always feel inside us, so that is not Chitta, it is Vijnana or is it Chitta?
It is part of the Chitta and the Chaitasika associated with that. So eye and eye consciousness, ear and ear consciousness, nose and nose consciousness, taste and taste consciousness, and then the feeling and the feeling consciousness. And then there's the nature of the mind and the nature of how the mind has this Chitta. We need a little bit more concentration and a little bit more calmness to even comprehend some of these things in us. Right? So don't try to understand all these things. What you need to do is to start slowing yourself down And when you slow yourself down, you need to begin to consider. Don't question it, just take it and consider it. And you should be able to find an example, your living life example, and see it backwards. Then you know how true it is. Yeah, bathing, eating, some little thing like that, take, and always see the Dhamma through that in one way. And you begin to confirm to yourself itself how true what that is. Very different experience today. Yeah? So, I have gone beyond, I think, certain limits of my time in a way. But you are happy to ask?
Probably one last question.
Yeah.
One can question, like, with this, the developments in the science and the developments in the other fields, like once a human being born, some of the DNAs can be transferred from their parents. So the personality we were talking about so far, is it individual or is a collection of individuals?
Okay. So Buddha talks about 5 laws. Dhamma niyama, the law of phenomena. Chitta niyama, law of thought. Utu niyama, law of climate. Bija niyama, the law of germination. Kamma niyama, law of karma. These 5 are the 5 that control us in our birth and the existence beyond it. Okay? So, Bija niyama is about the way hereditary things come in here. Right? But the nature of what comes hereditary and what sciences explain what comes hereditary are 2 different things. Science does not accept karma and the consequences of karma. So therefore, there is no explanation or there is no comparison of science to anything else. Science is just science the way it wants to be science. And it's nothing other than a big boys' playfield to spend their money. Yeah? And they can choose to identify any science. Yeah? They can choose to have, medical science, engineering in sciences, yeah? Put 2 bits of metal together and see how long it can wait. You push it and see how much of strength you need to break it. And you bring architecture. That's all. Right? And medicine is exactly the same. An experiment done today may not be valid tomorrow. Somebody may have disproved it. And we are happy to live by it.
Bhante, all this time butter was no good. Now butter is good. My wife says, can't take him butter.
And by the way, it just and egg.
Now the most important thing is the last evening I saw a program, the coconut. If you will long life, take coconut oil. And you know what happened in Sri Lanka. They said, don't take coconut oil, you will get a heart attack.
Yeah.
The Dr. Handy at that time, you can remember, he was saying, don't take coconut oil, it is not good for your head.
Now, may I just ask this simple question? How many of you like prawns here? How many of you dislike prawns? Okay. So, we take what you call king prawns. Yes. Yeah? With some nice sauces and this and that. We grill it and cook it and we give one. What experience would you have with that prawn? Good one or bad one? The people like? Yeah? Good one. I'll be very happy eating it, right?
Yes, yes.
So, if you take the same prawn and give it to those people at the back there who doesn't like prawn, now what experience would you have? Unpleasant. Stomachache? Yeah? So now when you ask, why have you got a stomachache? Prawn. That little prawn is to be blamed.